Hello and welcome everyone to another episode of Let's Analyze the Companions of Dragon Age, the Veilguard. I am once again joined by another mystery guest, not so much of a mystery anymore. Please introduce yourself to the group and where have they seen you on my channel before?
Well, hello. My name is Callista. You may recognize me as Pasha from Dragon Age Ascension. Today I will not be talking about the Cune.
Oh my god.
You may also recognize me from my own YouTube channel, Callista Plays, where I fumble my way through RPGs. Yay. That's what I do.
And just as a personal plug for her, Callista has released a bunch of new content on her channel, specifically analyzing this game. So please do check her out. She's got some great stuff over there. But today we are going to be talking about one particular character. Who is the character that we are talking about today, Callista?
Today, drum roll, please. I'm so excited. I'm tongue fumbling. Drum roll, please. We are talking about Bellara Lutar.
Yes.
Lutar. Not entirely sure how to pronounce her surname, but yes.
Yes. And as I had explained before, all of the guests that have joined me and will join me were given the choice as to who they were most interested in talking about. Calissa, what is it about Bellara specifically that drew you to talk about her during our analysis?
I think part of it is how she was first introduced in that very first trailer where she's coming out of the Illuvian and she's jumping out of there. She looks so happy and so joyful. And then that tentacle wraps around her and just drags her back.
Yes.
That really captured my imagination. I was like, "Ooh, who are you? Who are you, madam? You look
Right.
fun."
She almost, for a moment, she gave me a little air of PB, I think, from Andromeda, Mass Effect Andromeda. I don't know if you ever played the game. Okay,
I
okay.
have not. I do not know
Well,
who this character is.
okay. I think when PB was first also revealed, I think in the Mass Effect Andromeda trailers, the the energy. That's the best thing I'd say. The energy that she had felt very similar to Bellara. But at any rate, just to give a very brief summary, overall, high level of Bellara, she is an elven mage from the Veil Jumpers faction, which we'll get a little bit deeper into in a moment, voiced by Ji Young Han and written by John Elper. Ji Young Han has had a few things, actually, a bunch of things, I shouldn't say a few, a bunch of things in her IMDb, been on the Perry Mason TV series, been on The Good Doctor, even the Mickey Mouse Funhouse. I am very excited just because she is an Asian descent voice actor, and in one of my earlier analysis videos, I mentioned that Bellara also appears to have very Asian looking features, and I'm wondering if that's even part of the Bioware. I'm wondering if that's even part of the Thetis lore, if there are specific people who hail from some Asian inspired country, which I don't think has officially been mentioned in the games. I think it was lightly mentioned by maybe even David Gator, I think.
Yeah.
I think David Gator mentioned the possibility of there being an Asian inspired country, but nothing in the games yet, which I'm excited about. But we can talk more about that as well later on. For now, I'm going to hand the keys over to Callista, and Callista, you can drive this train wherever you want to go from here.
Okay. I think first things first, like let's talk about her faction. Let's
Mm,
talk about the Veil Jumpers because they're a relatively new faction in
yes.
Thedas. They only kind of started up after things went a little screwy with the Veil and
Mm-hmm.
Solus started doing his meddling. Solus, curse you. So we know that they are, because here's the thing, they're not just elves. They are a relatively like open organization. You will find city elves, Kunari, humans, dwarves, they were primarily started by the Dalish. However, they've pretty much opened their ranks to say anyone can come. Anyone can come, help us out, figure this out, and stop all of the madness that's going on in Arlathan Forest, I believe.
Right.
Because that place has been super affected by all of the tears and all of the magical shenanigans that have been going on in Thedas, I do believe.
And the Veil Jumpers have also appeared prior to the game when we were talking. When I was giving my character analysis of Harding, we had mentioned that there was a graphic novel called Dragon Age the Missing, which stars both Varric and Scout Harding. And during that storyline, they do run into the Veil Jumpers. And I believe that is the first official appearance of them, at least for us in real life. It's their first appearance. And so I thought that was really cool. The Bellara does not appear in the graphic novel, but you at least start to get sort of like a sneak preview introduction of that faction.
What I'm really curious to see about the Veil Jumpers. So we know the whole thing is like stopping the rifts, stopping the kind of reality warping magic that's going on in the forest. I wonder because we've seen sort of what Solus was planning. I'm not going to specify anything for fear of spoilers. But we know what Solus was planning, and it wasn't necessarily what everyone was expecting. I do wonder if we're going to run in a schism with the Veil Jumpers, kind of like how we've had a schism with the Grey Wardens. You know, with some being like, let's do blood magic, let's not.
Right.
That kind of schism where maybe some of the Veil Jumpers could be like, oh, he wasn't doing what we thought. This is accidental. Maybe the more classic Veil Jumpers, those who are, very elfy elves, as Sarah would call them, maybe they might be, maybe what Solus is saying wouldn't be so bad. Maybe we should side with this guy. And you have the others being like, let's not. That's insane.
That is interesting. Huh. Yeah. I would love to see something like that.
I think, and just seeing where Bellara falls.
Right.
On that scale. Because we know that her personality says that she is obsessed with, discovering ancient secrets.
Yes.
And Solus.
She's totally a Veil nerd. A Veil nerd, a Veil geek. And I love her for that.
But in that potential schism, who would she side with? Because Solus has all of those ancient secrets. He knows things that she is never going to be able to find out on her own. But obviously she has these bonds with the Veilguard. And so who does she side with? Her friends or her lifelong passion?
I wouldn't be surprised, like in all BioWare games, if that ends up being somewhat determined by the influence of your main character. Like that is the critical decision. Sort of like, Iron Bull, do you or do you not save the Bull Chargers? Which it's like, I don't know why you're asking me. Like, what? I don't know why you're asking me if you should or shouldn't. This is your people. Why should I influence that decision? But apparently I'm the main character and I can influence things one way or another, which again, they do this in Baldur's Gate 3 as well. So I would love to, I don't know, I'm torn on whether or not that's something that Bellara should be able to decide or her own, or if it's something that's influenced by your character. I'm always torn about those things, because I kind of like the ability to have that control just from a narrative standpoint. To say, like, this is what I want to see for my party storyline, but at the same time, I think there's also something to be said about giving the character the freedom to actually not be influenced by you for these major decisions either. So
personally, what I'd like to see is it's not one like, I want you to side with us. Like, I would much rather have it be, okay, based on this conversation, this conversation, this conversation, and this conversation, you created a really deep friendship with Bellara. So obviously she's going to be like, well, you're my friend. I don't want to kill you. So like, hey, compared to like, oh, you treated her like trash. You
Yeah.
treated her like absolute garbage. She has no reason to be loyal to you. So
Right.
obviously she's going to side with the Veil Jumpers,
Yeah.
kind of like Liliana in Inquisition, where it wasn't just one conversation that was like, you should be hardened or you should be unhardened. It was based off like a series of things
Yeah. That's
that
true.
causes her to act
Right.
however she acts in her personal quest.
That's true.
I'd speaking of Bellara's personality, let's see. She's been described as being plucky, hyper-focused, creative, obsessed with the Elven and the Elvenon and all of that. There was also mention that she uses kind of her plucky exterior to hide the fact that she is, hurting deep on the inside. She has dealt with sorrow, but she sees no reason, like, oh, why should I wallow in my sorrow when I could just make the choice to be happy and move forwards and that kind of thing. I wonder, because here's the thing, to me that screams personal quest.
Yes.
To me that screams personal quest. And yes. I'm curious, what are your thoughts on that, Huck? What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think the first thing that popped into my head when you mentioned that is Veil Jumpers. When I first saw Bellara, I mentioned in seeing the trailer that it sort of reminded me of something out of Uncharted, or her being sort of like an Indiana Jones-esque type of person, which I would presume is very dangerous. And so, without me actually knowing what her backstory trauma is, I'm wondering, is this one of these things where she doesn't fear death because she figures, hey, this is not only is this a good like adrenaline rush and the thrill of it is exciting, but perhaps if she does die, then that doesn't mean she doesn't have to suffer anymore. She doesn't have to deal with that pain anymore. So I don't know if that plays into that at all. But in terms of, to be honest, in terms of what the personal quest for her could look like, since I don't know enough about her backstory, I don't know what that would entail. If it even would involve the Veil Jumpers directly or not. Maybe you have insight on that without being too spoilerish. I don't know.
I don't really have any insight. It's more just theories based on this could be a cool plot beat.
Yeah, you can share theory.
I wish I could present like, and here is evidence. I've got no evidence. It's all my imagination. Personally, I wonder if maybe she had a lover who died. Because that could quite nicely tie into a romance where she's this very creative, romantic person, but, like, oh, the last time I was with someone, we were going on adventure. Maybe it was a fellow Veil Jumper. And it's like we were going on these adventures and it was so beautiful and wonderful. And then they died. And I don't necessarily, like, I want to have that romantic connection, but I'm also deeply scared of losing someone else that I love.
Yeah.
I feel like that could be really interesting. Correct me if I'm wrong, but have we had that kind of dynamic in I think the closest you'd get is Anders in Dragon Age 2.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, that is true. Yeah.
And even then that really wasn't because Anders is just like, I've just had to kill my boyfriend. Hawk. It's like he very quickly is like, hello.
Yes.
Do you want to enter my abode? Anders, mourn your boyfriend, please.
It would also be an interesting connection if let's say she did have a lover who died, if that lover was one of the characters that you meet in the graphic novel, one of the Veil Jumpers that Varric and Harding meet, just so that there's that direct
tie-in.
reference tie-in. So I don't know, just pulling at straws. So
pulling at different threads and seeing what forms. Threads,
throwing the pasta against the wall and seeing what sticks. So, since you speaking of the Veil Jumpers in general, one thing that I thought game mechanics wise that was very neat about Bellara is how she casts spells, because she utilizes a gauntlet that
Yes.
sort of transforms into something that looks like a bow.
Mm.
And I had read that this was something that was discovered by the Veil Jumpers as a way to focus magic
Mm.
more easily. And I'm curious if this is sort of a reference to one of my favorite jokes, or one of my favorite lines from Dragon Age Inquisition. I had mentioned the Bull Chargers, and in the Bull Chargers, one of the members is Dalish, and
Yes.
Dalish keeps saying that they are not a mage, despite the fact that they have a staff. They're like, "I'm not a mage," and they say, "But you're carrying a staff. It's a
Oh.
bow." And so I'm like, here we have Bellara, who is a mage, who is casting spells with a bow, which I think is kind of fun. I feel like if that was not intended, it's a very hilarious, it's a very hilarious coincidence. So
That it. Here's the thing, that's something that Varric could bring up. Varric met the
that's true.
Chargers. So I would
Yes.
hope that on meeting her, like they'd have that little interaction where it's like, is that a bow? Like
Yes.
that has to be intentional.
I hope so.
That has to be.
I hope so, because I have not seen any depictions of Bellara with a staff. So if that is her staff, which is a bow essentially, I'm like, that's just perfect.
I just want to talk about her design for a minute.
Yes.
One, the gauntlet is really cool. Two, I saw some concept art of her, and I realized that the pins holding her gigantic bun in place,
Yes.
they're arrows. They're actual arrows.
Oh.
Not only that, but the bits at the non-pointy end, the fletching part,
I
they're
don't know.
they're howlers. They're little.
That's cool.
Howlers.
I like that.
So I really love that as a bit of character design. I think that's so cute. Havalis, I'm very interested in Havalis Lean.
Yeah.
I'm so interested in that. I've said this before, but I think that a god of secrets and knowledge, I mean, that would fit her perfectly.
Yeah.
That would fit very nicely, considering that's exactly what she's trying to uncover. And it just, again, to me, it looks like the opening of the third eye. That's what that looks like to me.
Well, since you started touching on her Dalish roots, what I thought was also really interesting is that her last name, Lutar or Lutare, is not a clan name, the way it traditionally is with many people who are Dalish or from the Dalish. It actually is a legitimate surname or last name. So I'm sure there's some story reason for that. I'm
so sorry.
You might know something. Okay.
Not something specifically relating to Bellara, but so Dalish they have a first name, a surname, and a clan name.
Oh, okay.
And
Okay. Got it.
if they can trace their roots back to the original person that their surname matches the clan name. So if you think back to Dragon Age Origins, the clan was Clan Sabre, but obviously it was Warden Mahariel.
Right. Gotcha. Okay.
So Bellara probably comes from a clan that isn't the Lutar clan. She's from, there's been some mixing. There's been some mixing there.
Right.
Still, I would be intrigued to find out which clan she belongs to, because again, if this is a clan that's from, we were from, a country that is Asian inspired.
Yes.
In which case, did they make their way over to Thedas? Did they, traverse the crossroads? Did Bellara come on her own? Like, I want to find out where she's from, is from, and just all of that good info.
Yeah. I going back to her and her possible Asian inspired heritage, I think it is interesting that her voice actor is also Asian, and I want to believe that was purposeful. For representation purposes. If we're going to have a character that is supposed to be an Asian character, we should have an Asian voice actor. You don't have to, but I think that would be nice. And so I can't help but believe that this is a great opportunity to explore that in this game. And if they don't ever mention it, I'll be very disappointed. Which also touches on to our character analysis about Davrin. just before this video, and how Davrin is a black
Yeah.
elf. So is Bellara, in her situation, does she actually come from a lineage of Asian elves? Was she born from an Asian human and a elven elf, which probably wouldn't happen because she's from the Dalish, but you never know. I don't know. Like, is there just this country where all of the humans and elves and the dwarves and the Kinari have Asian looking features? That would fascinate me a lot. So what do you think about that sort of exploration for a country like that?
I think part of me's like, I feel like they have to touch on it because she is literally the first Asian character I'm pretty sure we've seen in the entire franchise.
Yeah.
It's like with Davrin, he is the first black elf, but he's not the first black person we've seen. You know, we had
Right.
Vivienne being
Right.
beautiful and wonderful in Inquisition. Like we've seen black people before in Thedas. We know, okay, they are present, they are there.
Right.
We've never seen Asian people before.
Mm-hmm.
That's where I'm kind of like, this, like, you have to at least touch on that. Like, if they never explained Davrin, I could at the very least go, okay, he probably has, you know, we know that they get darker skin toned into Vinta and Ravain. Like, so he's probably from a clan that's from over there.
Right.
Like, that makes sense to me. But if they never explain Bellara, I would be like, question.
Right. Yeah.
It's just, like I said, because we've, again, David Gader, he made reference to, like, there are other continents. It's not just Thedas and that's it. There are other continents out there. In which case, you know, how have they been affected? Do they have to deal with the Blight? Because obviously we know that the Darkspawn primarily occupy the Deep Roads. Do the Deep Roads go that far under the ocean that they stretch to an entirely different continent? How did they deal with them, with the rifts popping up?
Yes.
You know, how did they deal with the schism that Solus caused many, many millennia ago? Have they been kind of cocooned from all of that? Did they come from a civilization where maybe elves never lost power? Because they were, that's going on all the way over there.
Interesting.
We're fine.
I don't know. That's a good...
It throws up a lot of questions.
Right. Because you're right. This might not be a global... Some of these situations might not actually be global. We may think it is. But, you know, we're living in a time and a place where there isn't airplanes, right?
Yeah.
It's not, or airships, I guess you could say.
Yep.
So, people, there definitely could be, like, cocoons that are siloed from some of the craziness that's been happening on this side of the world for whatever reason. The Hellmouth, I would say. The Hellmouth of Thedas.
Oh. Just Thedas, the world's troublemaker.
Yes. Right. As an Asian myself, I can't help, and I am not going to read in too much into this because I think this would be very nitpicky, but I can't help but feel like since Bellara's personality is very nerdy and geeky, that does tend to be an Asian stereotype, being very nerdy and geeky and being very like ambitious, and so I don't know, I kind of feel a little bit of sort of a connection with her in that way. It's like, I can relate to that. I can relate to that as an Asian as well. So for sure. But yeah, I would be very excited just to get that representation. Because, you know, I don't get to see myself in games like this as much. I mean, I think from a BioWare game for sure, the one that I got the most representation was from Jade Empire, a much older game, and I don't think this is going to happen in this game. But if they do introduce the concept of an Asian-inspired country, I would love to start seeing characters that are very monk-like, you know, in the game, since, you know, for the most part, we've got warriors and rogues and mages, and having some monks or even more priest-like or religious
Yeah.
combative religious people, because we don't have clerics in the sense that we have healing
Yeah.
mages in the party. We just have mages who happen to know how to heal. But monks always had a very soft spot for me in fantasy-based settings like D&D, even World of Warcraft. So
I will say, just this isn't to do with Bellara, but I'm so happy that healing has been brought back as a mechanic.
yeah,
That was my one sorrow with Inquisition. Like, I want to play a healer and I can't. So I'm glad that at least we're getting at least one healing spell back.
yeah.
I have heard that each of the mages has a different heal. So part of me wonders if Bellara, how she heals is that she shoots you with an arrow. Just
like
Cupid.
Cupid. Cupid.
Just like,
That would be
like,
funny.
oh, I feel healthier. That's
very funny. Yeah, I think like picturing that sounds very amusing to me. Yeah, that would be cool. One thing I definitely want to touch on, because I always want to touch on this with every single companion, is romance. The companion's romance, and I'll leave it very open ended for you, Callista. What would you like to talk about in terms of romancing Bellara?
I think from everything that's been described, again, she's creative, she's romantic. If I were to liken it to a previous romance, I think Bellara would have the most in common with Josephine.
I can see that. Yes,
something very soft and cute, and not necessarily steamy or sexy, but like there's still passion there. There is still that feeling of like, something very soft and fluffy, and just something that just makes you go, oh, it's so cute.
I think one of the things that I was talking with one of the other guests was the BioWare has said that every single romance, like you said, is going to feel very different, and some are going to be more experienced than others. And again, maybe this is me just being too judgmental or presumptuous, but I have a feeling Bellara is going to be the lesser experienced one. I could be wrong. I don't know.
No,
I could be wrong.
I get those vibes. Just like there's such innocence surrounding her. She seems like, I'm telling, if she comes out and she's just like the Iron Bull but more BDSM, I'd be shocked.
Yeah,
I'd be shocked if she came out with like whips and chains and just like, yes.
I feel like considering how she is a bit geeky and nerdy, she could be a little awkward, like adorably awkward when it comes to romance. So I think that would be a very appealing thing for a lot of players if they're looking for that kind of relationship with someone. So
I will say, I enjoy an awkward romance. It reminds me of Alistair from Origins, just being like, I don't know what I'm doing, but I have these feelings. I'm just like, oh, bless.
Yeah. That's what definitely drew me towards Alistair. Is I have a soft spot for people that I deem to be out of my league. Like they look physically like there should be women or men falling, like throwing themselves at this person, but they're actually super, super awkward and super inexperienced. That combination to me is like, mwah. It for sure draws me to them. So
I could see Bellara going that way. I absolutely could see her going for that kind of romance route.
Yeah. Do you have any thoughts onto what the relationship conflict there could be in a romance? Because there always is going to be some sort of romantic conflict, I think, at some point. It's never just bunnies and
it's never easy.
And unicorns. So with her, I don't know what it could be. Maybe it could be part of that schism that you were talking about. Maybe it could be you're so laser focused on your work, and I don't know, like you're just to the point that it might be seen as an obsession. I don't know, like that could be a story beat there.
That was my thought, that she's so hyper focused on. So maybe we could have a quest where she's, you know, like, oh, there's some object, there's some scroll, and you're going through this temple, and maybe Rook gets hurt, and she carries on to the scroll. She doesn't come back, and therefore it's, you know, you have the conflict of like, you left me behind. I could have been really hurt, and you just kind of left me. Like, that's not okay. Oh well, I knew you were gonna be fine, but I might not have been.
Right.
I mean, there could have been a second trap. Like,
yeah. I think they're definitely, that would be a very interesting conflict, because I'd like to believe that out of respect to Rook, they're not gonna be like, oh, Rook needs me to rescue them again. Like, here, I need to hold their hand. I think in a situation like that, I can see Bellara wanting to give credit. Give Rook credit to Rook. Like, you're capable.
Competent.
You're competent. I didn't want to insult you by thinking that I needed to rescue you for that little thing. So, but then at the other end, yeah, totally can see why Rook would be hurt by something like that. So I don't know. That would be a very interesting conflict, because I've had in real life, I've actually had similar-ish conflict with my spouse, where they're like, well, you know, I was hurt that you did that. It says, I thought you'd be okay. Like, I thought that you would be fine. So
Bellara's potential relationships with the other companions, I believe she's going to be friendly with Lucanus, because they've both been described as the cooks for the group.
Really?
They're
I
the
didn't
ones.
realize Lucanus could be a cook.
He can cook, apparently. He's got good taste. So.
That definitely, because I've been eyeing. I'm going into this game not really having any idea who I'm going to romance, but the fact that Lucanus can cook, that is the key to my heart there. Given that he's in Tevan, I can see like some good paella, or, you know, some tres leches, or, you know, stuff like that. I'm already like thinking about things. So.
God, now I'm salivating. I'm just
Bellara,
yes.
But yeah, the fact that Bellara can do it too. Yeah, I definitely, she and I will be BFFs if that's the case. Total BFFs.
I think. So here's, like, they're both the cooks. It was described as like they were kind of like, well, no one else is doing it, so we will cook for everyone and prevent food poisoning.
This is the foodie in me, and I don't think this is going to turn into a side quest, but I would love for their, like, on the side during their downtime, I would love for there to be like a Iron Chef competition between Bellara and Lucanus, and the Rook gets to be the judge, or at least gets to be the deciding vote. As they prepare meals. And can you imagine having Spanish-inspired and Asian-inspired food to judge? I would be like...
Oh my god. How do you judge that?
Right.
How can you?
I'd be like, do I have to pick just one? Do I have to pick one?
Can't we have two winners? Can't we have two? Because they're both delicious.
Yes. We can do a fusion thing. Spanish-Asian fusion... No, but if there was a cooking competition scene in that game, I would be in heaven, just because I would be cool. Because, you know, they could do something like Chopped too. They could be like, there could be a whole thing where the Rook has to decide what the secret ingredient is, or what's going to be in the mystery boxes, and then based on that, they have to cook whatever is in front of them. And I mean, you could try to play things in certain characters' favors. Like, if you really wanted Bellara to win, you could, quote unquote, get more of the Asian-like ingredients. You know, I don't know. I'm just thinking this is probably never going to happen, but I can dream.
It'd be fun if they were arguing like, my food's better, no, mine is better. Rook.
Right. I want to see them have the banter too while they're cooking, like having that very even a friendly, competitive banter while they're cooking. And I want there to be, who would probably be a good, like, what do you call it, announcer, to give the play-by-play. Oh no, but is that about to burn? Lucanus, I think he's gonna pay heavy for that one. I don't know if that's a good idea. Oh, Bellara, I can't. not the eggs. Don't use the eggs. Like I could see that would be just hilarious having the play-by-play commentary.
That'd be Varric. That would be Varric doing the announcing, just like, what's she gonna use? Oh, she's using the wrong knife. She's chopping with the wrong knife.
Right. That would be hilarious. Bellara would be asking, like, are we allowed to use magic? Like, is that against the rules? Like,
she'd be saying, like, well, Lucanus has an unfair advantage. He's an assassin. He works with knives.
That's true. He knows his way around the knife. That's a very good point. You know what? I actually don't know, hypothetically, who could have a better advantage in cooking between Bellara and Lucanus, now that you mention it. I feel like they both would be pretty it would certainly be close.
Strengths. Yeah.
Okay. I am going to write a fan fiction about this, even if it never happens in the game. I am fan fictioning it and then therefore headcanoning it into my brain. That would be super
Dragon Age Chopped Edition.
Dragon Age Chopped Edition. Yes. Oh my gosh. Anyway. Very cool.
But aside from Lucanus, I don't know who Bellara wouldn't get on with. I potentially could see her butting heads with Tash. Just because from what we've seen, Tash is very much a, I'm physically strong, I'm working out, and we haven't really seen much of Tash, so I don't 100% know what their personality is like, but it could, like brains versus brawn, something along those lines.
I can see that, yeah.
And I've just as in case there was like, oh, if you don't romance Bellara, they'll romance this other person. Right. I could see her going after Emmerich. Because again, he has access to a lot of knowledge.
Oh, yes.
I could see them getting on.
I can see that. Or at least her getting on with Manfred at minimum.
Yeah.
I can see that too. That would be really cute, actually, if one of the companions that you don't romance gets with Manfred. I think that would be a very interesting twist. Like, it could be one of those things where people are like, I noticed that Bellara has been spending a lot of time over at Emmerich's quarters. I see her sneaking in. And then you kind of confront Emmerich about it. It's like, I don't know what you're talking about. Like, why does Bellara keep leaving your chambers? And she's got a big smile on her face. Is like, I have no idea. And then Manfred's like whistling in the background.
He's covered in kisses. Just covered in kisses and lipstick. And it's like...
And you see Emmerich's head turn... Manfred, do you have something to say about this? Like, do you want to tell me something? I think that would be hilarious. A very hilarious redirect.
Yes. Oh.
Or even more spicier, if you were romancing Emmerich, and people are like, so Rook, I hate to break it to you, but I've seen Bellara, entering Emmerich, hanging a lot with Emmerich. Or at least I've been catching her leaving his chambers really, really happy. And then, like, maybe you should talk to him about it. And you confront Emmerich. Like, so, I heard that Bellara's been spending a lot of time in your quarters, sweetheart. And Emmerich, again, would be like, I have no idea what you're talking about. And then, Manfred.
Oh,
that'd be hilarious.
That would be amazing.
Oh, we should be writers. We should be writers for BioWare.
What scenes have we added in? We've added in chopped and skeletal boning. That's what we've added in.
At least being in the pitching room to pitch ideas. That Dragon Age Shark Tank, basically, like pitching ideas. You all can do the writing. We'll just tell you, what the setup is, what the hooks are.
Just throw in some scenes. You make them come true.
Yeah. Oh my goodness, that'd be so great. What were we talking about again? What led up to this? What led up to
we
this?
were talking about potential, Bellara's potential interactions with the companions.
Well, yes. Speaking of which, again, I think it would be interesting if we saw some dialogue between her and Harding, given that Harding had met the Veil Jumpers before. So I'm curious if... I'm almost positive there's got to be some sort of banter or conversation between the two of them where they reference Harding's adventures with the Veil
Mm.
Jumpers, um, and how that's going to tie in, if at all, with this particular storyline. Um, and then I'm trying to think if there's anyone else in particular. Do you think she would get along well with Nev? Nev seems to be very
Oh,
like no nonsense, a no nonsense.
yeah.
I don't see her like Vivian specifically, but I do consider Nev kind of the Vivienne of the group
Mm.
in many ways, and I don't know if that would or would not clash with Bellara. It really could go one of two ways,
Yeah,
obviously.
Nev. Everything I've seen about Nev is that she's been described as a cynic, and that
Yeah.
up against Ballara's endless optimism.
Yes,
I'm like
that's true.
that could cause some friction.
I can see a really good rivalmance though between the two of them.
Yes, yes.
It's like I hate your ideals, but I have to admit you're super cute. Like I don't
Yeah.
know. Like,
Oh.
that would be pretty neat. I think this is interesting. An interesting excerpt from the wiki. BioWare polled the Dragon Age game developers with the question: if our companions worked at the studio, what would their jobs be? And the three responses were: Bellara is very creative, so she'd work in the art department. Another answer, game programmer, because she's always tinkering and building things. And then the final answer, definitely IT, because Bellara is a mad genius. So I think those are really great ways to describe her personality wise and give you an idea of what you're going to get when you have her around. So I think that's very cool.
Mm.
All right. Well, thank you again, Callista, for joining me in this deep-ish dive with Bellara. It was so great having you with us today. Again, if you haven't checked out her channel yet, please do take a look at Callista Plays. She has not only analysis videos, but Let's Plays as well. Um, so would love to have you go over there and send her some love and tell her that we sent you.
Eh. Thank you very much. Thank you for having me, Hark. It was a wonderful conversation. Yee.
Fantastic. All right. Thanks everybody for watching, and until next time, love yourselves and love each other. Bye
Bye
bye.
bye.